All right, well, let's get started. It's a little after 7. I think we got the papers. This is a Finance Committee workshop. Not planning on actually finalizing anything, just essentially covering year-to-date progress, perhaps a few things that are going to provide us with a little bit of headwinds moving forward. A couple line item budgets that may go a little bit over budget due to economic factors and just the nature of business these days, and if things could be somewhat reallocated to make sure the budget works. And then just really come up with a couple days for our official budget meetings that we can report on for the August meeting. And then the last thing would be if any citizens or residents had any questions. And I would say if it was a really detailed question, bring it to our attention, and then by all means email it to me, and then we can actually get you a detailed answer for some of these questions if indeed they are found. So far we're on track. There's a few that are definitely peaking a little bit higher. Police budgets and things like that are running a little bit on the higher side. We have a cushion this year that we have really never had before, and it would be nice to not consume it.
Agreed.
And it provides a little bit of a false sense of security when you have this manna from heaven that kind of came down. We do have some headwinds for the borough that are things that we could budget for, but some things you don't know you even need to budget for. Things like the stormwater management that's underneath of Route 352. If you'd asked me at any public meeting anywhere ever, I'd have said 352 is a state route. The utilities that run above it are PICOs, and the facilities that run underneath of it are, public utilities of somebody else's. So it's a little bit of a surprise that decades ago there was a write-off sheet that was written that puts us kind of on the hook. Still 50-50 on how much I believe we're truly on the hook, but it is an asset to the community to have a state route that goes through it, so maybe that's how they're looking at it. Let's see what else we got. Without going into a whole lot of details, does anybody have any questions so far that they want to?
I'd like to ask the treasurer, I know the COVID money was delayed, it did not come in the end of June. It was suggested it would be in the middle of this month. I haven't seen it or heard.
Right, so we've been keeping an eye out for that. We haven't seen anything yet. We believe it's going to hit the TD Bank, and we do not have online access for that account. We're hoping in the August report that we'll be able to report that you guys received the money.
Super, thank you.
But we'll keep you guys posted.
Thank you.
Do you think that'll be an online just deposit? Or
It'll be a wire, probably.
It'll be a wire, like the first batch.
Right, it'll be a wire that was set up.
So it's far from a windfall. Maybe it helps us stabilize a few things.
Maybe do the road.
Yeah, I still keep anticipating that somebody at some point will come through and say, well, if the road fails, it has to be repaired and maybe the state will. But, that's perhaps a public works or. No, I'm not counting on it, and that's why it's good to have money in your savings. But nobody ever wants to hear like, well, everything that we saved up to do nice movie nights and hire new people and do different things like that has to go to changing, dirt underneath the ground and adding new pipes. So it's something that has to be done, but you never get to see it won't be.
It's not appreciated.
Yeah.
It's not something that everybody says, oh yay, we're not falling in, I guess.
Thank you, yes, exactly.
Okay, let me move over.
I mean, I don't know how deep to go into it so far, we've had to cover, some of the police budget. It's run a little bit over in a few different places, and sometimes it does at the beginning of the year, and then kind of falls back in line towards the end of the year. In the summertime, people take vacations, so we're paying vacations and other things, and then towards the fall, people get back to work more or less. So I think more shifts will be covered in-house. I think a lot of those sort of things can move us, to where you see it gets a little bit up here and then tapers in to a more reasonable, what we're budgeting for, more or less. So, would you agree to that?
Absolutely.
Essentially, there's some things that we put in and it's like, oh, it's, 1,300% of this year's budget, and then at the end of the year, it actually starts to line back up. So
Right.
it's just an accounting, it's a way to keep track of it for accounting. Sometimes it looks a little bit more odd, but I do think, we've changed the value of how much gasoline is. We use gasoline here. We've changed how much people make. There's those sort of things that are going to have to be considered in the budget meetings. So.
And the police department did add an additional full-time officer, so overtime will hopefully balance out and everything like that.
That's why I asked one.
Yes, but all the other benefits are up, so.
Right, correct.
It's definitely going to come with a cost, but I believe the benefit of having full-time coverage in a lot of places will help. It's a nice little borough. So, anybody else have any kind of questions they want to go over?
Andrew and I had talked about some line items that needed a journal entry. One of them was the PICO bill. I think that we discussed that 2 months ago. And the other item would have been recoding recreation. Has that been done for August reports?
So the recreation, we cleaned that up during the July. So I guess it would have been the June reports.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe, I have Christine on the phone as well. I believe we did fix the due to, due from, that was there from prior year. And then we do still have a due to, due from. We have to reimburse the general fund. That accounts weren't assigned properly at the time. So we cleaned that up. It's all going well. And we're going to probably do that end of year just to clean that part up. We didn't want to do it in the middle of a quarter. It probably makes sense to do it at a beginning or end of a quarter or something like that.
Super.
But it's on our radar and we'll take care of it.
Super, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Middle of the month October and middle of the month November work for getting us
Do
budget?
we usually start in September?
Yeah, it
so that we
seems a
can
little
have the
late.
First reading for November and pass in December?
I think typically we've done like August or October 18th or something like that, and then had a second one, but we can certainly do a September.
I think we did September 14th one year because that was my daughter's birthday.
Okay.
So were there any line items that were of concern that are completely out of,
Completely out of whack? Not necessarily, no. I mean, Brinker Simpson does a solid job.
are there any that we're under on that we,
No, not really. I mean, I think in general, like, we don't debit, like, for years, I've never used any of the park money, really. And then we always end up coming in right at, it gives us enough to do some maintenance, gives us enough to do a little bit of repair. And then it gives us enough to do the mowing through the summer, with some of the plowing.
Over budget on the police department.
That kind of gets, that starts to balance out. nothing's really like way out there, but second quarter, you don't see it start to pile on until a little bit later, and that's why I figured if we got together now and said, this was mostly to give anybody in the, any of the citizens a chance to ask questions or open up dialogue for, it's truly a workshop. The agenda is just to keep it moving. If anybody has any questions, we'll figure it out. We'll get you answers. Like I said earlier, if somebody wants to send me an email with a question, we'll get it answered as far as that goes. And, slowly start to plug in, what 2023 is going to look like, because it will be here in no time.
Yeah.
And the false sense of security, getting an extra couple $100,000,
Got to think toward the future.
yeah, it's amazing when it costs over $100,000 a month to keep the wheels rolling, that $200,000 truly isn't. It's not a windfall, and I'm hoping that if the estimates come through, I think Mr. Rhodes said something like maybe 100,000 as opposed to 200,000, and maybe fantastic. It may be usually those things go a little bit further over budget. I haven't seen too many. The road program goes pretty smooth because they can see, and with our side streets, it's not a lot of traffic control. It's not a lot of variables, but with basically a highway with utilities above and below, there's a possibility that there could be a bump in the road with that one.
Yeah, I won't believe a number until I see some actual bids.
There's buried conductors, there's all kinds of stuff.
And we already know from the initial review of those sinkholes, Chester Water and Delcora systems are really close, because we asked Chester Water and Delcora to do the initial scoping, thinking it was their lines. It wasn't. But if you have a minute, can I ask the treasurer another question? I noticed that our revenue is at 83.5%. I'm looking at the end of the quarter, second quarter. The EIT monies are down by 41.9%. Have you monitored our bank accounts recently to see if we've received more EIT money now that we're into July?
For this coming month, is that what
Yes.
you're saying? So we don't have online access to TD Bank. We only have online access to Sharon.
Yeah, we're working on that.
So I can't.
So there's no way to monitor if we're picking up
Correct.
EIT
That's
money?
why we like to have online access, that we can see real time the
Okay.
activity that's going on in the account.
I'm sorry, I should have thought of
Yeah,
that.
no problem. But we'll make note to check on that when we're doing the
Because
reports
we're
for
really
July.
far below on the EIT money, and I don't know if it's associated with people not getting back to work, or employers are not submitting it in a timely manner after the end of the quarter.
Right.
So that's why I brought it up.
Christine, do you know any information on that?
Well, we can log in and print a list of employers that they collect from. We don't really have too much control over that, because
I know.
when, people get set up within a payroll company, and then they assign, where they live and where the company's located, that's what generates all the earned income tax money. But we log into Keystone and download those deposits every month, and then match it to what comes in the bank. But we can also log into Keystone and print a list of companies or businesses that are remitting funds and into the account.
Thank
We
you.
can provide some information, but we don't do a lot of upfront tracking on that. That really isn't
Okay.
something we would be able to do. I mean, somebody in Parkside would have to go around all the businesses and residents and make sure they're all registering properly.
Well, I believe Keystone Collections will take care of that at the end of the year.
Yep.
And it may be down a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe not 41%, but I
Yeah.
think when people change employers and they change a few things like that, it may take a little bit before they get another payroll.
The economy
companies
gets
catch
back up.
And we've seen it in the past. Yeah.
Mr. Law, can you tell me where we stand with the COVID money?
Directly to the penny, no. Because it's basically just been added to our general budget and utilized that way. It's not being misused, but
No, it hasn't, no, it's not.
I don't believe it's been debited.
I believe there is a separate line item that I could get the total amount, and hopefully when the funds come in, we can give you the total of the amount that the borough received.
Yeah, I don't think it's been debited at all, so
Right.
maybe I misspoke as far as that goes, but it has not been debited. I'm just trying to avoid that. Would it be in the profit and loss for this one? What would you have named it?
It was named before we took over, so I'm not 100% sure what it was called, what it was listed under.
Did we receive it this year or last year? I think we received it last year, so I don't know if it would be in this year's P&L.
Yeah, it'll probably be on last year's P&L.
It would be in the balance sheet, but not the P&L.
So we will, I'll get that information for you, Mayor.
Are you talking about the COVID money?
Yeah, they were just looking for the,
I think it was 124,000.
Yes.
That's about right.
124,000 is what the first draw was, and then,
And the second should be exact the same amount, because all they did was give a total and divide it in half.
sounds good. So we'll keep an eye out for that to come into the bank.
Does anybody know when our mortgage is up for the building? Because I was looking at it and it was like at 157, the balance, and we're paying almost 50 a year. Does anybody know what year that's up?
It wasn't, it's not that far in the future. I don't remember exactly, but we can absolutely get that information.
I believe we have 5 or 7 years
Bank
to
find
go.
out the terms of the agreement.
What did she say?
We'll reach out to the bank to find the terms of the agreement.
Thank you.
I do believe it's 5 or 7 years to go.
And that's for the building.
Yeah, and we have in here for maintenance or repairs, $34,985. I mean, some of that's got to be the money that we've spent to get the work that wasn't done properly at the police station, the police side, for the
I think
air conditioning, right?
Most
So
of that
we're-
should have been CapEx. That should have been like what we set aside for that
Hey, Andrew.
project.
yeah, but we had to get somebody else to come in because it broke a couple more times.
I think they're, if I'm not mistaken, aren't they crediting, they're crediting.
Yeah.
That's all getting taken care of.
Friday that work, I believe.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you very much. I hadn't heard what was going on with that.
Right.
Yeah, that fell under like the punch list to make sure it was all right. Either reimbursing or covering the contractor.
Excellent, thank you.
For years, I knew exactly what that pay off for us for the mortgage. Because it's for the building, but we don't actually like own the land. It's like a 99-year lease with the school board. I was always like,
Just wait until they need more classrooms.
That's exactly what I thought forever.
And I paid, when the deal went through, I gave the school district, at that time, president, Mr. Krieger, I gave him a $20 bill. It was $1 a year, so we're good for 20 years. I don't know what he did with the $20 bill, but I gave it to him.
Years ago, I tried to get them to have like an election day over here. And it just, because even county council, they were going to put voting machines over here and let them actually vote for like council president, like over here, or not council, like their student council.
Uh-huh.
And I was so bummed when they kind of like never fully came through. But it's so neat that it's right there. It's kind of real neat that within a block they have the Ford Fitness Trail that they could definitely start to improve some things. Like as a elementary school, they can kind of see government, see nature and everything. So might not be finance report. But
I think we got off the track.
That's great.
no, but I mean it's kind of it's why it's all here.
We're gonna
Like, I
be
guess-
done in like 5 minutes, so, you know.
No, I like to keep them quick. And it's the truth of the matter. If somebody had something that was beating on their heart and they wanted to come here and then bring it to council's attention, they have the venue. And if it comes through and it's nice and smooth, and they didn't come, it's.
So what dates are we saying for the meeting?
I mean, we could do the fourth Wednesday. We could do-
September?
We could do the fourth Wednesdays, September, October, and November.
If we do our first reading in November, then we could pass it in December, and we won't have to double back on meetings in November because of Thanksgiving.
All right, so that's September 28th. I guess at 7?
Yeah, I love.
7 works. And then what'd you say, the 4th in October? That would be the 26th.
I know. I'm sorry, the second date?
10/26.
October 26th. And it's at 7 PM?
Yep.
It should still be in your calendar for council meetings because it's a Wednesday.
I had to erase all those.
I was like, that's perfect. I can just stick with this in my calendar. Set a
You had the
notification.
day free anyway, right?
Yep.
Doug, will you ask Tamika to advertise when we get closer?
Absolutely. I'll bring it up at the August council meeting.
So I have a question. We changed it from the fourth Wednesday to the third Wednesday because of school meetings. So do you think it's wise to keep it on that Wednesday? Because we may have parents that are at the school meeting instead of coming here.
Well, it's just a budget workshop,
Okay.
so they can catch us at the next
Okay.
meeting. What do you think?
It's open
One
policy.
fair.
It's being recorded. It's shared. They can send an email prior if they have a concern. They're absolutely included as far as that goes. What else do we have? Anybody in the public have,
Where do we stand with the revenue that our inspectors bring in? Is that higher than, because they bring money in, correct?
is it higher? It's not a budget breaker, so I don't actually like dive into it.
It's not actually a source of revenue.
Just kind of keeps things.
How's it not a revenue?
Because the expenses are almost as much as the revenue. And technically, inspections and that sort of thing is supposed to be revenue neutral in government. It's not supposed to be a source of income. The taxes are supposed to be the source of income as well as income taxes, things like that.
I haven't noticed it trending in anything different. I mean, people are, when interest rates go up, you know, repairs have to be done. Upgrades and modifications, you will see taper off. I'm just going from a financial standpoint. It costs you a lot more money to borrow. You're not going to.
How close is the solicitor to his deal? Because did he have a budget?
I think he's right on track.
It might be just trending a little bit higher, but
Okay.
there's a lot of transitions in place. There's a lot that, sometimes things do cost money, but towards the end of the year, the second half of the year, if you start realizing that you paid an extra $10,000 in legal fees, then you start to say, maybe we don't have to go to the solicitor for every last little dot and shell. So that's what's been my.
Can I just give a percentage, because I love percentages? We're at 68.9 for the legal fees.
Okay. I didn't have it directly out in front of me, but 68%, I mean, 7 months in, almost 8 months in, so probably 68% of the way through the year. Maybe, we closed the second quarter at the beginning of June. I'm sorry, at the 30th of June. It's a month in, so, yep. We're scratching the hair.
With setting the budget, taking into account like tax money coming home that we send in, I assume it was expected to go down because so many people had either lost jobs or lost income because of COVID. There was nothing we could do. They were getting laid off, fired.
It's tough to budget for that. I think it came up in a number of discussions as far as doing everything possible to not raise the budget, to not, increase taxes and things like that. That's kind of the ballywick that we have to play with, is limiting the expenses going forward. Like, to make a forward-looking statement to say that people won't have money, it's tough to break the budget down for that. So I know exactly what you're saying.
Do they still have to pay that off of unemployment too? Is that
I believe you
1%?
do have to pay taxes on it.
I know you pay taxes on it, but I'm wondering if.
Local taxes as well, probably,
Yeah, same.
probably.
Same.
And, I mean, in the last couple of years, with all of the houses selling for so much higher than they had in the past, and we had a lot of turnover for a while there. And we make money every time a house sells. So, and the more the house sells for, the more we get.
So I admit, I filed my municipal taxes late. I don't get anything in the mail from them. It's just kind of like a light bulb all of a sudden goes on in the middle of the night. I wake up and say, I forgot to do it. So I'll be getting my money from the city of Philadelphia soon.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have to pay local to Philadelphia, then Keystone transfers
Philadelphia gets theirs, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe it, they got 8% sales tax now.
Yeah, we all pay, where I work at Social Security, we all pay that level of
Okay.
tax, and then once we file at Keystone, Keystone goes, you owe us.
Oh. That's wonderful. But you still don't get free parking.
No. I pay a lot of parking tickets, so
No.
COVID actually saved me parking.
No, it's just,
Working for the little-
it was levity, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Say that again, Christine?
Anybody else have any kind of questions for?
The way the house is selling, if there's that many sales, right, then the taxes are being omitted by working on it, and they're being escrowed as part of people's mortgage payment. And that's because I think that a good piece of the taxes have already been collected.
Right.
Okay, what was
I
that?
think we missed it.
I didn't hear.
I think she just said with the sale, like sales of houses and stuff, that revenue is gonna go up in the sense
So
of.
the tax collection is done by, being remitted from mortgage companies.
Correct. Yeah, the money, she said the money will come in fairly quickly after the sale. Right,
Okay.
thank you.
Well, we budget a certain amount for our postage transfer tax, but we're at 102% of that amount. So
Yeah.
that indicates what our houses are doing. They're selling and we get that money back from the county and, yeah. Always a good thing.
Yeah, people are buying here because it has a great elementary school and it's becoming a little bit more of a walking community. It's affordable.
Got movie night.
You need movie night, you need a trolley, we'll take it straight to the city.
And our police and fire company is here.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
close to the airport. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, that's not a benefit. That's like I get to be the official parking for everybody who lives farther away.
This may be something I might need to email you about, but it's not really, I guess, it is finances, but is there a way to see how much, I guess I could go back and look at all my old tax records, like to see, like, what our tax increases have been
Oh, yeah.
just over the past five years?
It'll probably be tough for me to give you your
Yeah,
house's
I
assessment.
can go back
But
and
we
look,
know-
but there's a way to track that kind of.
Absolutely. They basically changed the reassessment, which
That's
threw
right.
everything off.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
last year's is going to be skewed no matter
Yeah,
what we try to do
yeah.
as far as that goes. But the mill rate, say that 10 years before that should run relatively consistent. And then once they get their feet underneath of them with the new assessment, that should start to be a little more consistent. There's laws against them raising the tax is more than 10%.
A certain percent that
during
first
an
year,
assessment.
yeah.
Without going to court, that's correct.
So, but I don't know how that's gonna play out in the long haul, so if all of a sudden, us all living in nice, moderate homes, like, you know, now all of a sudden, our houses are worth a lot more, I don't know how they're gonna do the assessment and decide that perhaps we have a higher burden to pay.
Well, when was the assessment? It was fairly recent, right? Like,
Last year, it was
So-
tough to go through this.
Last year.
but they don't do them, they're not gonna do another one for 10 years, probably.
We went through several years of
No, as far
the
as
millage staying
reassessing,
the
no,
same.
Yeah.
But they reassessed.
We had 4 years where
Changed.
there was no tax increase, so your millage actually was flat. And
Yeah, I know, and it's hard to like, a lot of most of our tax bills just go right to our, like to our
Mortgage company.
Well, I mean, you should
company.
come, you
So, I mean,
should.
we get them, but you know what I mean, sometimes they just get paid, and unless you're like a numbers person and you're constantly on top of everything, you might file it away and then look at it later, and,
I'm one of those seniors that is in line paying my taxes at the beginning of the year.
okay. So you're saying like 4 years, it didn't go up at all? That's interesting.
No, it's going up. No, we had
Doug, I
tax
think
increase,
several years ago, we
Yeah,
were
we-
straight
yeah.
even for 4 years.
but we've stayed as tight as possible. Only because there should be a valid reason for us to collect that tax from you. You know,
Yeah.
it
When
has.
was the last increase?
I would agree with
I
that.
think it was
Last year and the year
this
before.
Yeah.
It went up like $100 each of the last 2 years.
Definitely,
And let's not forget, the trash fee is separate from your taxes, and of course, we've had a new contract with the trash company, and because of the recycling costs, that's going up. So that's got to be segregated from your property taxes.
And we just got another email saying that they're gonna hold off until the end of the year, but it's probably gonna go up another like 5%.
Really? From B&L?
No, from Delaware County Solid Waste.
Oh,
From the dump.
they just raised it last year.
And so there's an acting chairman, and I don't want to misrepresent it. I read over the email and it said, oh, it's going to cost more money. And I went, oh, it's going to cost more money, and then I stopped reading it. Threw up in Twitter or something.
Will you have that, would you
Like
have-
everything is more
would
expensive.
you have that available to all the council and for the budget meeting? So we can calculate that into the budget?
Sure. Yeah.
Just went up
absolutely.
last
Yeah, no,
year.
Absolutely.
Jeez.
But gas has gone down a little bit, so it should be.
Tiny
It
bit.
has, I mean, I looked at it, I was like, okay, well, I think, compared to like a month ago even, I'm gonna say.
The price of eggs.
Oh, it's horrible.
Did anybody buy eggs last week?
It's terrible.
Holy moly, are the chickens on strike?
Yeah.
Because of that virus.
Yes, that's exactly it. They had to slaughter like 1.2 or 3 million chickens. Yeah, the virus epidemic with the chickens.
Good thing it's barbecue season.
They didn't even show them down at Delaware Fair this year. And they always have chicken.
Yeah,
They
the,
were banned.
the
We good,
farm
Doug?
where we volunteer,
Oh, I was just
like,
checking
we
this
can't
real
have,
quick.
Shut us
if
down
there are
and
chickens
send
there,
us home.
but they have to be like isolated in a separate room with plates, and you can't.
All right, so hopefully I didn't misspeak. Why does everybody
Yeah.
do their thing? Now, this may actually be for commercial customers, but it always bleeds over. So it was the July 1st, the surcharge was 18% off the base rate, and that added $3.19 per ton for all the transfer station material that runs the chassis. So, if indeed it is 100% applicable to the borough, I will forward it. But there are fuel surcharges that are in place. We're still, I mean, yes, we've had a little bit of a break, but we're still 100% more than for fuel than we were, 2 years ago. So that'll take a little while to
Please.
settle in. And that's pretty much all I had. If anybody doesn't have any other questions, 35 minutes seems like a perfect
One
budget.
more, unless you guys have something, just one more little quick question about, how do, like, empty houses or houses that are like I don't know if there is, like, anything's in foreclosure or anything like that. How does that, like, affect, I mean, how do we go after that money? How does the borough? I consider.
The bank, I mean, the bank owns those.
Yeah.
So they're never without an owner as far as that. I mean,
Yeah,
if it's
sure,
a
I
sheriff
get it.
sale or something like that,
Yeah.
I don't believe I'm misspeaking at all. The, you know, the real estate tax is the real estate tax. It has a lien applied to the property if the property owner doesn't pay it. And then at that point, there's court costs and legal fees to satisfy the lien prior to transferring it to a new owner. So that's why sometimes houses do sit for a little while, because you're like, oh, that's a great house, and then you find out it's got $25,000 of encumbrances on it, and then people don't necessarily want to jump into that, because that has to be paid essentially. But real quick, did we answer your question on taxes?
Yeah, no, that's fine, and I can, yeah, I can
All right.
maybe email you if I have further questions. Thank you.
It will be difficult for me to find out exactly what
Gotcha.
it is, but we certainly can say what the mill rate
No, I mean, like I said, yeah,
increases were.
I can look at my old stuff.
The mill rate increases over the last couple of years, we can absolutely figure out for you.
It's just that once you go from the previous valuation of the houses to the new one, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's like comparing apples and oranges, so.
Thank you.
Here are no other questions or anything. I want to thank everybody for coming out, caring about the finances of your borough. If you have any questions, send me an email, dbull@parksideborough.com. I'll get you an answer before the next budget workshop. As far as that goes, so it's not to delay it, but it'll be like, hey, I'll reply to you in 4 hours. You will get a reply. Here, nothing else? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.